Howdy, all you delicious people! I'm here to review Scarface. So this is the first time ever watching this film, and I really enjoyed it. I really did. This movie I felt was freaking great. I really was to thought that the 2 hours and 50 some odd minutes was really worth my time, and also I am to go on and be just so happy now that I've gone on and seen this. When obviously being a wrestling fan, I am to look at Razor Ramon's character and just being like, man, Scott Hall, you stole everything from this character and more. But logically, I guess, like, no one called him out on it, or really no one was to, like, kill that character, and it just kept going. Even though it really just is a copy and paste from what is to be Scarface, and that obviously was the idea all along. And so recently I'd gone on to watch stuff like Griselda and obviously the Johnny Depp movie Blow and Tom Hardy Legend movie, and or eventually he did the Capone film, and I've done a lot of those kinds of movies where it's all about the mafia or the mob or whatever, or even like movies like The Irishman and stuff like that, where it could be forcibly compared to stuff like Scarface and Goodfellas and The Godfather and all these movies just slamming together to just all be compared to. Which honestly, I liked Scarface a lot more than I did The Godfather. The Godfather, like, there's some good stuff in there, but it's just a long slog of a film. So, and if anything, like the funny things that I liked and enjoyed about this film is when they kept talking about bowels, because I'm a very much a childish person, and whenever they were to talk about that, I just got a good giggle and laugh, as well as also uh, really feeling for Tony's character that, like, it says the words like the world is yours, but logically I was thinking that at some point, like, the world is not enough for Tony. Like, how he has to go on and get like the perfect life and the perfect home and the perfect wife and the perfect job, where, yeah, every once in a while he has to kill some folks, but eventually that just becomes to where it's like, no, I need to just keep on murdering and killing and and eventually keep my reign, as if he is to go on and be this like old-fashioned king who is to try and keep what's his, or go on and also just kind of keep what he kills, which that's approximately what he kind of does in this film. So Tony goes into the very beginning of this film and is to be a Cuba refugee, and then is to go on and start to go into villainish like tactics to then progress into getting his green card, to then going in and negotiating with a person who is to be a drug dealer. And then Tony goes on to do one task that is very sketchy and very troublesome. And then this guy goes on and turns around and is within this empire starting to build himself up to be one of the big guys, and then the big guy. And then further and further, when interacting with certain people, he ends up, of course, getting in trouble, to where he ends up having to realize that he has to go into war with people simply because he is to reasonably make mistakes, which is to, of course, tick people off. And when these people are to be so easily ticked off, I mean, like, if you make one mistake, that is the only mistake that you're going to ever make. And These people are gonna do anything that they can to come after you and murder you. But so, if I haven't said already, this movie was freaking great. I enjoyed it. It was worth the 2 hours and change, almost 3 hours. And if you have not gone on and ever seen Scarface, there is a number of times within MTV Cribs that celebrities would go on and talk about how they loved Scarface and how it's their number one film or something like that. That's probably why, in the back of my mind, I was always like, yeah, I should probably see this movie, but I just didn't do it until now. Or also, Dana Carvey was recently talking about how he had gone on and actually seen Scarface and how he was going on and talking uh, through the entire day of just like the run of the mill, like he had food in front of his table and he was talking about cream corn and he was talking in the Al Pacino voice, and I'm sure at some point he was talking about cockroaches and so on and so forth. But yeah, between the balls and the cockroaches, like those were some good times had by all in this film, by them consistently bringing that up. And the sad part of it is we have to wait so freaking long for the biggest iconic scene, which of course is the "Say hello to my little friend" and pa. We have to wait so long for that scene, but it felt worth it. Um, and how he's just going on and just getting just plattered by bullets, and he's just like, yeah, I'm taking your bullets, yeah. Like how he's just like so like, oh, like he's just so the man, even though he's getting killed. Like he just can't just go out without just being just the bad ass that he is. But anyways, so regardless of probably where you can rent this movie or whatever this film, I'm gonna go on and give you two apps to dare, in fact, be able to have the ability to watch this movie for absolutely free. Which is to, of course, be two apps that if you have a mobile device that, of course, I would hope probably has a tablet or a iPad or something, because eventually that would be the easiest way that you could say you could watch a lot of movies and see them on a much bigger screen. But to each their own. Anyways, yeah. So definitely go on and check this movie out via an app called Zelifonic, Zelivonic, and also you can tune into an app called Moopsy, Moopzzi. Justifiably, again, check it all. Check out this movie and a billion other ones because you'll be able to see whatever you freaking want through either one of these apps. To dare in fact say that you can see a lot of for free. So let's go on and let's push into spoilers because I feel that I've gone on to kind of talk about this film, but then not much of the nitty gritty. So, to realize that this movie is 2 hours and 50 minutes long, I'm going to have to figure out a way to really just scrutinize and really just cliff note this movie uh, while going into full on spoilers. But definitely, I'll have to go into my notes and also uh, my cast list to be able to insist that I help me find a way to talk about this 2 hour and change movie. Yeah, but it's freaking worth it. I enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments below what is to be your favorite mafia film or mob film or whatever film that deals with drugs, and maybe you like Miami Vice. Maybe you like any number of just kind of films like the Jean-Claude Van Damme movie Knockoff or something like that. Let me know in the comments below what is to be your favorite kind of maybe gang or mafia or just kind of weird hoodwink movie. I don't know. But let me know in the comments below just maybe your favorite Al Pacino film. I can enjoy stuff like Arthur, or I can go on and enjoy movies like And Justice for All, or also I can maybe like Jack and Jill. Why? I don't know, but I've never seen that movie. I've never seen that film. I don't justify checking it out, and I won't ever. But Al Pacino was in that movie, and I know Al Pacino had gone on to desperately take on that movie role, just because he like just started to run out of money, so he just needed that film role. And also, maybe you can go on and check out my Godfather review. So that way you can go on and actually watch other things that I do on this channel, regardless of length of how long they are. I get it. But anyways, let's go on. Let's pause this review so I can get up my notes and stuff. So with that said, I think it's about that time to just do the song and dance again. It is spoil time, spoil time. It's about that time again to spoil this Mahoobie. Let me know in the comments below. Anything. It doesn't matter at this point. I just appreciate a comment every once in a while. It feels so empty out there. Out there in the comments. It feels like there should be just a tumbleweed just blowing around and, just every once in a while, just it's nice to get a good tender comment every once in a while. Just even if the comment is just to be about blah and like it makes no rational, nonsensical words of things. At least it's a comment, and that's nice. Every once in a while, I even go on and just get a comment that is to just advertise, obviously, some other person's channel, and I'm like, well, I guess I just have to keep this comment on here, because sadly for me, like that at least is a comment, even though it's advertising whatever they're doing. But either way, like I guess I would probably go on and do the same thing, in certain avenues, which I've never gone on and done. But anyways, let's pause here. Let's whip out some balls and call out what I am to call it about this film. Let's pause here. Okay. Also, I honestly didn't like how women were treated in this movie. It felt like the women were being tricked in this movie. And Manny, of course, was a douchebag because he's like, oh my god, look at that woman's chest. She's begging for it. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm sure she's begging it from you. All you have to do is do a little tongue waving, and freaking, yeah, she'll be begging for that, I'm sure, when she slaps you in the face and gets away from you as soon as she can because she's begging it from you. Oh yeah, like you could do any better. No, I can't. I can't. I haven't for a very long time. It's been cold out there. It's been very cold. The tumbleweeds have been just going through. Oh man, my horrible life of women taken. It's horrible. It's hard out there for a pimp. Anyways, he said he was a pimp. No, whatever. Anyways, I'm just saying words to fill time. Moving on. So, at the very beginning of this film, we get an introduction of a man named Tony Montana, and it seems that his full name is to be Antonio Montana. And really, that is a bit of a mouthful. So I think they should really just call him Tony. I think that should be the obvious name going on here. So it seems that Tony is to know English, because he had gone to a school to be able to learn it, and then also he had gone to the movie theater with his papa, and through movies, it seems that he had learned English that way also. And his father at some point had taken him to the United States, and so I guess really for Tony that was his dream to just live in the United States. So, but when Tony is eventually to be asked about any of his family, he goes on and says that they're all dead. All of them, my whole entire family, they're all dead. But so Tony is to also talk about how he is in the construction business, and it's also kind of funny when later on Tony talks to Manny, and Manny mentions like the business that he's supposed to be in, that he lied about. So, uh, but Tony also talked about how he liked working with his hands and he was in the army. So we're getting quite a bit of backstory of this character in the very early stage of this film. Whether we are to believe it or not, like eh, maybe this is all to be just a ruse, uh, just to go on and tell these coppers a bunch of information here because he's being interrogated. So they also end up going on and asking him if he liked to wear dresses and if he liked men, and like what does this question have anything to do? Why? Like why even ask that bullshit? So but they end up also asking him how he got that beauty scar, and they assume it's probably from eating some meow meow, if you know what I mean. Eating some meow meow, eating some you know, you could probably figure it out. Going down below, down periscope. Anyways, so uh they also realize that Tony is have a tattoo upon his hand, and they end up asking him like, well, hey, like where'd you get that tattoo from? And Tony's like, oh, I got it from my sweetheart. It's like, sweetheart bullshit. Like, we know that this tattoo is to be code for something, and they are to go on and also just kind of notice that. So eventually we further and further go on here, and eventually this is to lead to uh Tony becoming uh a refugee, and he ends up getting sent to this like camp of an area. And so Tony and Manny are on this bus together, and Manny states that his job was in sanitation. So basically, he cleans crap. And so Tony ends up telling Manny, it's like, no, 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 no. Like, that's not what you should have told him. And so they end up going in and they end up saying that Manny should have been working in a sanatorium or some bullshit like that. So, so after after this bus ride, it goes to 1 month later, where again all these people in these camps, the refugees, and so Manny is to find out a way for them to get their green card. So he makes his way to Tony, who is going on and playing baseball at the moment, or basketball. My bad. I got the sports confused for a second here. So Manny grabs Tony and it's to let him know that if they go on and if they kill a guy, they will get their green card. And it ends up being a guy called Revenja. Weird, goofy name. So, but they're killing him for political reasons, and also like in the very beginning of this movie, there is a bunch of montaging about Castro and Cuba, and a lot of just kind of stuff that is to just really, I guess, be a sign of the times. I guess I'm just kind of really just questioning any of that. But anyways, they end up spotting the guy coming off from this line, and so the story of this is that Castro felt like he couldn't trust this Rabenda guy, and so they threw him in jail. So if they go on and if they kill this guy, like it's definitely gonna get them a green card and a way out of here. So and eventually, when Tony goes on and kills people, he ends up calling it fun. Weirdly, or any of the horrific things that he has to go on and do, he just calls it fun. So, and Tony says, like, well, hey, like, if it means that I can get my green card, I'm going to carve this guy up really nice. So, we have this, like, rioting going on. People are shaking these cages. Rebenta is just kind of making his way through all these people, goes in this tent, and Manny's following him. And it seems also that there is another guy off to the side who I believe is Angel that also gets wrapped up in Manny and Tony's endeavor or venture, and he's in the background also. So as Rabenda, like we're assuming that since Manny is whipping out this knife, that he's going to be the one to kill this guy. And as further Rebenta or Rebenga, whatever his goofy name is, continues to make his way through this tent, that's what we're thinking is going to happen. But then all of a sudden, when this guy turns around, he then gets knifed by Tony, who of course is like, well, yeah, from a friend that you fucked. So this guy dies, and we then cue Tony, Manny, and Angel that are getting their green card. So we then go to this restaurant, Little Havana Restaurante. So Manny and Tony are now working at this restaurant. Uh, Tony is uh, cleaning dishes, and he's like, "Man, like I didn't come to America to break my back. Like screw this. Like we need to find something else here." So they go on and they find a guy named Omar, and they end up going on and talking to him, and he ends up saying like, "Oh, hey, yeah, guys, like, if you go on and if you steal these drugs that we'll give you money for, or if you go on and you take these drugs and you exchange them for the money that we're going to give you, like, there's going to be some money in it for you." And Tony goes on and tells Omar, it's like, who do you think we are? Like baggage handlers? Like, no, like, uh, because really, like, they want to go on and they just want to pay him just like the smallest amount possible. But Tony's like, no, 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 no. Like, you're gonna be paying me more than that. You're gonna pay me like $1,000. So I think they want to just call. I think they just want to pay him like $500. He's like, no, 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 no. Like, I'm gonna be doing the heavy lifting here, so you're gonna be paying me more than what you think that you're gonna pay me. Uh, so, but eventually they come to some arrangement, and so the following day, uh, oh, also, Manny ends up telling Tony, it's like, man, you're gonna be worrying yourself so much that you're gonna have a heart attack. That's what I kind of thought was kind of funny in this early parts of this movie. So, uh, so they go on and they find, I believe, which is this hotel, and they have four guys within this car, and Tony ends up telling guys like, well, hey, like if I'm not out by like 15 minutes, like that means that there's something wrong. So both Angel and both Tony get out of the car and they make it to Hector's place. And Hector is going on and talking to Tony, and it feels like they're not going on and doing any kind of deal whatsoever because Tony has the money in the car and Hector has the drugs, but it's not on him. So Tony is like, well, what deal are we making here? It feels like we're doing introductions here. I'm finding out who Marta is, and I'm finding out who Hector is. And I'm just like, okay, like, what is the point of all this? So eventually, the point of all of this is while Hector is distracting both Angel and Tony, both Tony and Angel, while they're not aware, there's going to be men coming up to this apartment to then sneak around them, to hold guns on them, and then shove them in this tub where they are to eventually start to get chopped up by this tub. And this is all seemingly because like these people don't have the money, and when they were to go on and consistently ask Tony, like, well, hey, where's the money? He would tell them to F off and he wouldn't tell them where the money is. So eventually, like Manny, who of course is to be distracted by a woman in a bathing suit, and he's grabbing her, he's trying to kiss her. He's like, you know what, I don't know what I'm doing after this, but so like Manny is trying to go on and just grab this woman. And so eventually by the time that the woman scrambles, that's when Manny and the person sitting next to him decides like, hey, you know what, I think they have been in there for a pretty long time. Like I think we should probably go in and actually check on what's going on here. And this is pretty much after like Angel has been like pretty good and chopped up here, and Tony seems to be next on the chopping block. So Manny makes his way into the hotel and breaks through the door, and guns a blazing, and freaking people are getting murdered and killed. But Hector seems to be slinking away here, leaving it up to now Tony, uh, who is to need to go on and shoot down some people, and then find that Manny had taken a bullet, and he and Tony checked on Manny to see if he's okay, and then he ran off to find Hector so he can shoot him in the head and be like, okay, it's your turn, I kill you. So Tony, Manny, and everyone scrambles into this car to drive away because they realize, like, hey man, we got to get the heck out of here. So Tony ends up making a call and states how there was a bunch of cowboys and somebody effed up on this deal. And so uh and so now Tony is to go on and tell Omar, it's like, well, hey, I have both your money and the drugs. Like, let's figure out a way to like exchange this. So Omar then transitions both Manny and both Tony to meet up with a guy named Frank. So it seems that Frank and Tony immediately hit it off. Like these guys, it seems like they're old friends already. And so we have Tony that goes on and says that like Manny had taken like a bullet uh, for this whole job, and also they had lost a guy named Angel. I'm sure Frank could not give a single F about any of that. It's like, I don't care. Like, man, like I wasn't there. Like, why should I give a fuck? Like, that's why I have so much money is to not give a about like any of you people because you're just lower than me. But so, but as Frank is to go on and talk to Tony, like he takes a shine to him. So reasonably, like they go on to open up this briefcase and give Frank the money or give Frank the coke, and Frank is to go on and say how there should be this kind of f up like this, and that he appreciates the gesture that they'd gone on and kind of deliver this to him, and so on and so forth. So eventually, Frankie is wanting to go and get some food because he's starving, and they're planning on going to the club called Babylon, but they're just eventually going on and waiting for uh, Elvira, and it seems that Elvira is to be a person who spends so much time dressing or undressing, and then Tony's like, ah, well, you gotta catch her in the middle, yeah. Uh, and they make a whole good joke about that. So finally, when Elvira does end up making her entrance, which is on this elevator, which I thought was so weird. Um, but I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I guess that's a really good way to introduce this character. So as Manny is going on and blabbing away with Frank, Tony is watching Elvira go down on this elevator, and he is just like, oh my god, his eyes are glued. And so Frank turns to Elvira and is going to tell her it's like, hey, it's 10 o'clock. I'm freaking starving. I'm like, why would you be eating at 10 o'clock at night? It seems really late. You should probably eat eaten a lot earlier than that, but I guess it's just me. Like, I what I tend to do is I tend to like I just have like a one big meal throughout the entire day. But like I kind of nibble on oatmeal bars and just kind of protein stuff throughout the day. So it just kind of uh, cuts whatever I'm doing just kind of in half. Uh, Pretty good way of just kind of eating throughout the day. But anyways, um, but Elvira goes on and be like, well, you're always hungry. You should try starving yourself. Uh, you guys should probably end up getting a little bit thinner that way. No offense, Frank. I know you've passed away, but the actual actor, my bad. That seemed like an insult to Frank. I'm sorry. Uh, the actual actor. What is his actual real name? Is it Loja? Frank or some Loja? Because I think Family Guy did a goofy thing about that one point, made a joke about it. Anyways, so Robert Loja. Moving on. Anyways, so uh, Frank introduces Elvira to Tony Montana, and it's kind of weird hearing the name Elvira because I'm immediately just thinking the Mistress of the Night instead of a Scarface character, because it's very rare to have that name ever be stated in a film, but Scarface. So when Frank goes on and tells Elvira that they're going to the Babylon Club, Elvira goes on and says to Frank, it's like, man, like you go there all the time. Like, if somebody ever wanted to go on and assassinate you, they would know exactly where to go because you go to the same places all the time. So So they go to the Babylon Club, and they have Manny, who is going on and with this girl, and he's kissing up on her, and I guess where that's gonna have going nowhere, Manny, nowhere. It should go nowhere, Manny. Screw you, Manny, for trying to just trick women into getting into their pants. I hope you have to pay for it all the time, Manny. Screw you. Oh no, he doesn't. He gets Gina. But bizarrely, that relationship just works. And we'll get to Gina here fairly soon at some point. So, the Babylon Club. So Manny's going on and talking to Frank, and Frank is going on and talking about some big distributor uh, that has a setup from here to Houston, and that eventually they're also to go on and kind of talk about one of the guys who are also in the club called El Gordo, and really just Frank just goes on and talks about how fat this guy is, and because they end up calling him a pig, and well, they end up call him a Gazar, or a Gazar, a Chazar, and they end up saying that it is a pig, and I'm just like, okay, sure, like this guy, you just have to go on and just do the one thing. But speaking of one thing, they got to go on and also start to talk about the lessons that Tony's gonna have to learn here. Lesson one: don't underestimate the other guy's greed. Lesson two: don't get high on your own supply. Uh, yeah. Um, and also, Elvira ends up saying lesson number two because she's probably heard this a billion times from a number of people. And then also Frank ends up turning him like, well, yeah, like, and of course, not everybody follows the rules. Um, so someone goes on is to be handing off champagne to Frank, and it seems that it's a very lavish uh, bit of champagne, and so it's $550 a bottle. My God, man, you could be spending a bunch of like, how much you could just blow on just some good and not like one bottle of champagne. Like I am just a frugal motherfucker, but god damn, I could be thinking about so many other things that I could be spending the money on instead of just one freaking bottle. But that's just me. I guess people just lavishly like to spend, but hey, in the end, if you do, let me know in the comments below if you foolishly spend. Maybe you'll throw some money my way one day. Who knows? Maybe a buck, maybe 20 cents. Who knows? Anyways, that's a stupid joke. Anyways, uh, but if anyways, I like the fact that they ended up making a joke about that's pretty good for a bunch of effing grapes. I like that joke. That was pretty good. Uh, so Frank is going on and telling Tony that like even though Tony is kind of dressed in the nines, it's like, well, that's not really good enough. That Frank is going to go on and be like, hey man, I'm going to get you some new clothes. I'm going to get you some new threads. Uh, because you're going to be working for me, I want to get you a $550 suit, and I want you to look sharp, and because I want you to work for me. And so Tony's going on and just handing the guys cigars because they're pretty much celebrating at this point. Like, all right, like you want to just give me, just throw me like uh tons and tons of lavish suits and champagne and this and that, whatever have you. Like, I'm not gonna argue with any of that. So Elvira wants to go on and she wants to dance. She's turning to Frank and hoping that he will go on and he will dance. And it's either going to be that or he's going to just sit there and just have a heart attack. And Frank is like, well, you know what? Like, I'd rather have the heart attack instead. So Elvira goes on and is looking at Tony. It's like, well, hey, how about you dance? And Tony's like, ah. And Frank is like, yeah, go on ahead. Just go on and dance with them. And I'm like, man, this seems like the Punisher scene where John Travolta has his wife go off with the one guy to go off and dance. I'm like, how is this going to turn horribly awry? Where he's going to have suspicions that like Tony's going to like try to get his woman and kill him. So Frank and Omar turn to one another. It's like, well, like, what do you think of him? Like, hey, like, what do you think of this guy? And Omar is like, well, I think he's a effing a peasant. And it's like, well, yeah, but like, he'll go on and he'll break his back for you. So like, you gotta keep that in mind. So Tony and Elvira are dancing here, and so Tony wants to go on and find out Elvira's full name, and he finds out that her last name is Hancock. Of course it is. Of course it's some goofy, weird, pervy name. It can't go on and just be like some kind of normal name. It has to be Hancock. Of course. And then he has to go on and kind of make fun of her name. Like, it sounds like a bird. No, it sounds like a Will Smith movie. And so he also goes on and asks like where she's from, and he thinks it's Chicago, but no, she's from Baltimore. It's like Baltimore, Baltimore. So uh, so, but if anything, Tony is just trying to be friendly here, and Elvira is like, well, I have enough friends. I don't need another one, especially one who came off of a banana boat. And Tony immediately, because it's like, well, yeah, like I was a Cuban refugee, but like I didn't just come off as some just banana boat. And so, but eventually, Elvira is to just kind of apologize to Tony. And like I think she just kind of did this so that way she can just kind of dig into him, or really just kind of see if he's gonna just like prove his worth to her, like prove that he's not just some pushover. But anyways, uh, but like she was also just kind of looking at him like, well, I wasn't uh so sure that you were like so sensitive about your diplomatic status, whatever that means. Uh, but if anything, again, like Tony is really just continue to just step to Elvira and ask what her problem is. Uh, it's like, yeah, she's good looking. She's got a beautiful body, beautiful legs, beautiful face, and all these guys are in love with her. Um, Only that she has a look in her eyes that says, "You've been, you haven't been fucked in a year." I loved that. Like, yeah, like you are just slamming, woman, but like your eyes just say that you are just desperate for it because like you just have not gone on and gotten any sliz from that man of yours. Like he is just not putting out, and you're just like, I just need something, even if it's a dance, so to speak. So, but here is also where Tony goes on and uh, calls Elvira baby, and she's like, "Do not freaking call me baby." So Uh, and Tony used to go on and be like, "Oh yeah, like you're gonna be mine sometime," and Elvira goes on and says, like, even if I were blind, desperate, starving, and begging for it on a desert island, you'd be the last thing I'd ever F. I love that. Even if I was blind, starving, desperate, yeah. Why would you go if you were starving on an island and you were blind and like? Why would you go on and even think about doing some effing? Like, why would you? Why would that even come to your brain? Just be like, you know what? Like, I'm on this island. Maybe I just need one more last F before I die. Yeah, like that probably wouldn't be a thing that'd be going through your mind, unless you just had nothing better to do because you're just stranded on a desert island, and you might as well just like just bang it out because you have nothing else going on. But anyways, I went too long into that. So so Manny and Tony like they're talking about Elvira, and so Tony is telling Manny, it's like, yeah, like that woman that Frank's with, like she likes me. I could tell, like, and like you could just tell by the eyes that that never lie that this girl just wants some of that Tony. And Manny's like, dude, you're gonna get us freaking killed already. Like we've just gone on and just started like working with these people, and you're gonna freaking get us killed off. And Tony's like, well, yeah, like Frankie, like he's soft. It's like, really, you're gonna go that far, buddy? Uh, and just looking at his face, like Tony can tell how soft Frank is. So and supposedly his booze and his kuncha, kuncha, tell him what to do. Uh, so, but if anything, like Tony doesn't want to do anything that is going to get him back into that cage, being a refugee all over again. And but like Tony is to tell Manny that it's like uh that he's getting what's coming to him. He's getting what he deserves, and the world and everything in it. So 3 months have passed, and both of them are sitting in paradise. They're seemingly at this. It looks like Hawaii to me, but I don't think it actually is. And the two of them are sipping mojitos. I don't know if it's mojitos. I'm just kind of rambling making this up. And they're going on, and Tony is like, man, I wish I could have gone into this business way earlier. If anything, I could have already been by now having my own car, my own boat, my own golf course, and this and that. So they're going on and they're noticing women in bikinis. And we, of course, have Manny, who is seeing Tony try to go on and put the moves on a woman by asking her out for ice cream. And the woman's like, ice cream? Ugh, ew, I don't want no ice cream. And Manny's like, seriously, ice cream, man? Tony's like, what? Ice cream? So here's where Manny goes on and tells Tony that he knows the key into women's hearts was really just a, yeah, whatever, what a douche. Come on, Manny. Like, yeah, uh, I'm sure some women might like of the tongue, but some women may also want to get maybe wooed. Maybe also they want to go on and be romanced. Maybe they want to go on and actually feel that a guy actually gives a like you don't. You, Manny. I love you, Manny. I love you. Not really. But just for this review, I'm just going to have some fun here. So, Manny goes on and finds a slamming woman that he's like, all right, I'm going to go on and like watch the uh, 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 watch the God. What is the term? Um, watch the man at work. So Manny goes off to make his way to hit on this woman while Tony is going on and he's sitting next to these two young boys and this woman. And like what Tony was saying here was really kind of fun. I really enjoyed it. I really liked it. And Tony is turning to these two kids like, "Hey, watch this man. Like, watch my friend here. Uh, he's gonna stick his tongue out at that girl and see if it works for him." And so Manny goes on and does the whole tongue technique, which does it. Women who are going on and watching this review, which I'm sure you probably may not won't be, because it seems very rarefied air that women actually watch my reviews. But hey, if you do, I really do appreciate it. I really care. I do. Um, and if you're a woman, like does that work for you? Like as a guy who's just going on as a way to get in your pants. Like I'm sure maybe the probably works in the sheets, but like well, probably not. Like you really have to go on and you have to really get your tongue in there. Um, or as I would like to do, get my tongue in there. Uh, but anyways, uh, but yeah, but like the woman like looks at Manny and slaps the out of him, which of course deservingly should. And so Tony is like, ah, look at him, like look what happened to him. So if anyways, yeah, like Tony looks at Manny, it's like, oh, like you know what, like I would just crack you. I was just like, of course, like that's what you deserve. And she's too big for you. Like, come on, Manny, let's just go on and let's just keep on going. And Manny ends up calling the woman a lesbian. It's like, come on, no, like shut up. Like if anything, like if she wasn't really into giving you the time of day, like she would have even like gone on to like have you like give your good old intro tongue wave. Yeah, what crockish is that? Anyways, so here is the really cool quote that I actually did like, and it kind of makes sense in a lot of ways. To where like at some point, like it's not just so easy they can just show up and just a woman will just be like, "Oh my god, that guy." No, like for Tony, it goes on and says like, in this country, like it takes it makes you got to make the money first, then you get the power, and then you get a woman. In my best uh, Al Pacino impression that I can do. So Tony and Manny are picking up Elvira uh, to take her to Frank, and Frank is looking at the Cadillac that they're driving, and she's like, "No, I'm not gonna be caught dead driving in that. So you guys got to buy another car to drive me in." And so she calls it a nightmare, and so they're like, "Oh, okay, all right. So I guess this car isn't good enough for you." So they go to this dealership and they buy this car, and I love where Tony is going on and saying like, "Oh yeah, buy all the bells and whistles, put all the attachments and all these things on it. Will this make you happy? Um, that I'm spending all of this money, Elvira?" So also, while going on and talking, uh, they end up bringing up the words "some lady tiger," and come to find out, Tony wants to go on and he wants to buy a actual tiger, and Manny ends up saying that to Elvira. It's like, hey, do you know Tony wants to go on and he wants to buy a tiger, and like he wants to have it as his host and this and that, and so so after they go on and they buy this car, Elvira's like, aren't you guys ever gonna take me to Frank? And Tony's like, well, hey, we got an hour. Are you hungry? And Elvira's like, no, but I'm bored. And so Tony goes on and says to Elvira that he wouldn't have bought this car if Elvira didn't like it. Because, again, he's trying to woo her over by buying this lavish car that she only likes. But it's kind of funny how, like, logically, Elvira did not want to go on and ride in the Cadillac, but that's what she rides in anyways. As they go on and they buy this car. So so as as Tony ends up getting into the car, the two of them are exchanging dialogue here, and so Tony ends up saying to Elvira, "It's like, well, hey, like, I like Frank, but I like you better." And Tony jumps on Elvira, and she kind of pushes him away, and Elvira is telling Tony, "It's like, well, hey, I don't f around with the help." And here's where Tony goes on and is to take Elvira's hat, and he goes on to then wear the hat, and he asks her, it's like, well, hey, will you kiss me with the hat on? And like Elvira starts laughing, and she's like, no, like I wonder if Tony like improvised this scene uh for the film and they just kind of kept it, and they just had a good time in the scene and they just kept it in the film. They're like, no, 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 we're gonna keep this in the movie. So here is where we get Gina. A really good part of this movie. This is the one strong female character that I really liked. Even though I think at some points Elvira is a really strong character, but I think that Gina is like there's something about her that I really did like, and especially I like the way eventually they play out her character. So Tony meets with his mother because his mother is still alive. I guess either their father had disappeared or he died. I'm not quite sure. They don't go on to the clarification of what ended up happening to Tony's father. I think in my brain, but excuse me, but I could be wrong. So Elvira, uh, Tony goes on to meet up with Gina and hands her a present, a locket that ends up having an engraving on it. And I believe the engraving reads, uh, to Gina from Tony. Always class, just class, just just really just very just he didn't know what to put, so he just plopped down that seemed good enough. So while both Gina and Tony are talking, Gina is talking that she has dreams about working at a beauty salon, and Tony's like, no, 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 no. Like, you know what? I have a surprise for you. Like, I'm gonna go on and say that, like, you going on, you working. Oh, well, that's over. Like, starting today. Like, I'm gonna go on and I'm gonna give you money, and like, you guys are never gonna work a day in your life, you or mother. And the mother, of course, has something to say about that. That she goes on and starts really saying that, like, of course, like, Tony's money is probably dirty money, and that she wants nothing to do with Tony and his money, and that the money that she gets, like, she knows where it's coming from, and that, like, also uh like, she will not take any of Tony's money, and so on and so forth. So Gina and Tony go off on their own, and Tony gives Gina $1,000 and tells her, it's like, hey, like, go spend this, have fun, and like, uh don't let mom see that you have this money. And so uh Manny is looking at Gina, and he's like, man, she looks beautiful. And Tony looks at Manny, it's like, no. Uh like, stay away from her, man, you hear me? And she's not for you. Yeah, we'll see about that. So we go to Bolivia, because that's what we do. So Tony and Omar are speaking with a guy named Sosa, and they're going on and they're talking about 200 kilos refined every month of the year, and there seems to be no, like, steady market for them to sell this stuff, so that's the only real problem. They have a bunch of this, but, like, there's not an easy way to sell it all. So eventually, all this is to come into Omar and Tony going on and trying to strike a deal here. And it seems that Sosa is kind of reserved from working with Omar specifically. But then also we come to find out that uh, that Sosa doesn't really want to work with Frank either. And so Tony's like, great, I don't want to work with them either. So you, me, we work together. All right. We can just knock these guys off. So, because eventually, after Sosa is talking to both Tony and Omar, and Omar is looking at Tony, it's like, dude, you need to shut up. Like I got you, like, I got you to be here. Like, I got you to start working. uh, and like you should kind of show me a little bit more respect and this and that. So, but if anything, the further and further they talk here, Omar is like, you know what? Like, I think I should go on and I think I should leave and I should specifically talk to Frank face to face instead of going on to a phone call to calling him. And Sosa's like, well, okay, like we have a chopper and we have a plane. Like, if anything, like you'll be back here, um, like so soon. So as Sosa, Omar, and Tony are starting to walk away here, we have Sosa that tells Omar, it's like, you know what, I want to talk to Tony here. Maybe he'll figure out a way to help me run my own business. So Sosa turns Tony and tells him that Omar is dirty. That Omar had gone on and had uh, had kind of turned some people in, and he had worked for the police, and Sosa ends up handing Tony binoculars for him to see that Omar is to be shoved off this chopper and he's killed. He's being hung. So Sosa ends up telling Tony here, he's like, you know what? Like, I didn't really like Omar. Like, he was a shady guy. And also, like, I don't like working with Frank either. So, like, but I like you, Tony. Like, for some reason, I really like you. So, like, how are we going to make this work? And so Tony's like, well, hey, I'm here. He's not. And if you don't trust me, it's like, hey, make a move. Like, do something. Uh, and so it says like, well, you know what? I think you speak from the heart. Like, I think you are legit. And so, uh, but if anything, like, Sosa doesn't trust Frank's judgment because, of course, if he's working with guys like Omar, like it's only a matter of time before like their company is just gonna sink. So, but if anything, it's like, well, hey, you can't blame. Tony's like, well, you can't blame Frank for that animal. Uh, if anything like that could happen to anyone. So Frank is gonna go on and, or no, Sosa's gonna go on and have Tony go on and talk to Frank, and they'll fix the relationship between the two of them. And so, da, 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 da. Uh, and here's where Sosa goes on and tells Tony, it's like, well, hey, you mess with me one time and one time alone, uh, like don't f me, and don't you ever try to f me. So now at Lopez Motors, we go on to have Tony, who's talked to Frank about the deal, and Frank is kind of upset because Tony had put this whole deal together without really discussing it with Frank, and Frank is like, you know what is gonna happen if like I'm light on payments? Like this guy like it doesn't seem like this guy is just gonna like just kind of let things slide if like $1 million go missing. And Tony's like, well, hey, like if the $1 million goes missing, maybe I'll talk to my connections and we'll find that $1 million. And Frank is like, oh, okay, well, but you, like so. Frank ends up telling Tony, it's like, well, hey, whatever your deal is with Sosa, you better stall that deal. And Tony's like, stall? Really? And so here's where, of course, we also get the very iconic line where Tony goes on and he says, I bury those cockroaches. Uh, and it was kind of really fun to just kind of hear that because, like, I heard that randomly somewhere, but I never connected of what exactly he says it in this movie. Uh, so, anyways, uh, but Tony wants Frank to think big, and Frank is also calling like Sosa like, well, hey, he's a greaseball and he's a cocksucker and he's a snake and all this stuff and saying like, well, hey, like if you turn your back on him, like he'll stick it to you, and you don't trust a guy like that, and there's no proof that Omar was actually to be like a stoolie or a guy who is kind of squealing on people, and only like Sosa is to have that bit of information, and Frank doesn't. So and like Frank is just looking at Tony as like, well, yeah, you're a bit of a dope because you're just buying into this guy because it seems like he's going to give you everything that you've ever wished for, and so you're just so like consumed by him. It's kind of like Anakin, where he kept talking to Palpatine, and like he ends up getting just kind of easily coerced by Palpatine. So, uh, but anyways, so after all this rigmarole, uh, I'm really trying to fast track through here. Here is where Tony meets up with Elvira as she's just kind of sitting by the pool. And Elvira ends up talking to Tony, like, well, hey, like, Frank's not here. And Tony's telling Elvira, it's like, well, I didn't come here for Frank. Uh, and Elvira's like, well, this is not the time or the place, Tony. And she's like, maybe next time make an appointment first. And Tony ends up turning to Elvira. It's like, well, hey, I have something to talk to you about. And he ends up pushing this cart of scotch. And so Tony ends up going on and asking Elvira, it's like, well, hey, uh, do you like kids? And Elvira's like, well, yeah, but I would rather have a nurse. Uh, and Tony's like, oh, okay, good. I like kids too. Boys, girls, doesn't matter to me. Uh, like, Tony and telling Elvira, it's like, well, hey, like I come from the gutter. I know that. I have no education, but that's okay. Like I know the streets and I'm making the right connections and so on and so forth. So Tony's going on and saying it's like, you know what, I could really go to the top, but I need the right woman. And Tony is telling Elvira that's like, you know what, I like you. I liked you from the first time I laid eyes on you, and and he looks at her and he says like, you know what, like I see you and like I see that you're like a tiger. She belongs to me, and I want you to marry me, and I want you to be the mother of my children. Marry me? Elvira's like, marry me? What? Uh, and Elvira looks at Tony. It's like, well, what about Frank? And eventually, that is going to lead to then Tony figuring out a way to murder Frank, because eventually that's going to come up. And Tony tells Elvira, it's like, well, hey, Frank, he's not going to last. Like, he's finished. And so Tony is telling Elvira to just think things over, and then he leaves. So Tony and Manny go to the club, and they find that Gina's there, and immediately Tony ends up getting upset because it's like, well, hey, what is she doing here? And there seems to be a guy named Fernando that seems to be with her, and like this guy is grabbing all on this girl's butt and like just being a total douche because like he's not really wooing this girl, he's not romancing this girl, he's shoving into her bathroom stall, and then they're going on and they're making out in there, and Tony hated that, and so he grabs this guy and rips him out of the bathroom stall because it's like, really, like that's what you're gonna do, like you deserve more than that. And then Manny also tells her that it's like, hey, yeah, you deserve better than just making out with a guy in a bathroom stall. You deserve to be with a lawyer or a doctor or something. But I'm getting a little ahead of myself. So also, Tony and Manny meet with a police officer named Mel, who we never actually see in a police uniform, but he's just this inspector. So Mel is trying to go on and squeeze Tony for a bribe, as well as also like reminding Tony that it's like, well, hey, you did kill those people at that hotel before. Like, do you think that you were not going to get away with any of that? So Tony goes on and hears Mel out, and he goes on and puts on some napkin what his fee is, and Mel goes into a whole bit of dialogue which will eventually lead nowhere. It does nothing for this movie. And so it feels like it's a moot point to even go any of this dialogue and talk about any of it because eventually, like, this will have a very small shelf life. So, but I also really liked the whole thing where Mel goes on and he states, like, uh, any time above ground is a good day. And I think I heard that quoted by somebody somewhere, and I never connected it that it was from Scarface. As well as I'm sure I probably heard a number of quotes throughout my life that probably were from Scarface, and I never knew it. And but I heard this quote before, and I was like, all right, well, I guess this is a Scarface quote, and somebody freaking like ripped it off from Scarface. Those mothers, whoever those mothers were. Uh, I'm sure it's probably not someone probably from my family, but probably somebody who just thought that they were clever. But anyways, stupid rip off people. I'm ripping off Me ripping off. Everyone rip off. Yeah, let's all rip off everybody. But anyways, so we have Mel that turns to Tony and is telling him, it's like, well, hey man, like maybe you should go on and just kind of do something with your life, because you could probably die tomorrow. So Tony finds Elvira, and Mel's like, hey, good on you, like, and Tony's like, okay, Mel. So Tony turns to Elvira. It's like, well, hey, did you think about what I said and about the kids? Huh? Did you think about all that? And Elvira's like, you know what? You really think you're nuts? And so Frank ends up kind of whiffing this conversation out. And so both Frank and Tony are having an argument because they know what's going on here. And Tony's is sniffing after Frank's gal. So Frank is going on giving Tony an order, and Tony's like, "Oh, you giving me orders?" Uh, and here's where Tony goes on and says, "Like, well, the only thing that's gonna have to give me orders is a set of balls. Is a set of balls." And so Elvira leaves, and so Manny is talking to Tony here, and Tony's going on and saying how like Mel, there was obviously a reason why he had gone on and seen Tony, because I think Frank is starting to go on and uh, try to push Tony down here. So here's where Jeannie goes into the bathroom stall with this guy touching on her tuchus, and Tony falls after them, rips this guy out of the stall, and Jeannie's like, "Well, hey, I like this guy Fernando," and so Tony is going on and telling Jeannie, it's like, "Well, hey, like I tell you what to do, like listen to me, like come here. I catch you here again, I'm gonna wipe uh you all over the effing place." I'm saying that verbatim. Uh, and Jeannie pushes him like, "No, I want to see you do it. Like, I want to see you do it. Like, come on." So Tony gives Jeannie to Manny like, "Hey, get her out of here." And so uh, Tony goes on and watches the entertainment, which is to be this comedian. And there seems to be two guys that are kind of looking at the lights, and they seem to have some very interesting napkins that have guns in them. And Tony's watching the entertainment, and Manny and Jeannie are driving off here. And here's where Manny goes on and tells Jeannie, it's like, well, hey, you should end up with a doctor or a lawyer or something like that. And also, Jeannie is saying to Manny, it's like, well, hey, like, uh, Tony is treating me like a child. And Manny's like, well, hey, Jeannie, like, you're the only one good thing that Tony really has left. That if anything, like you're pure, like that's why he's trying to keep you that way. He's trying to keep you pure and innocent and whatever. And he's trying to protect you. And so back at this club, we have this weird goofy guy that comes out with this unusual costume and is to put on this act. So uh but Jeannie eventually while talking to Manny and talking about the doctor, the banker, the whatever, Manny turns to Jeannie, or Jeannie turns to Manny and say, "Look, well, hey, how about I end up with you?" And Manny turns to Jeannie. It's like, no, like me and Tony are brothers, and like that makes everything just kind of awkward here. But like, Jeannie is gonna like just push it to where like the both of them are going to end up together because Jeannie's like, well, you know what? I know how you look at me, and like we might as well just kind of work this out because two of us are both single and whatever. So back at the club, we have the two guys guns ablazing, and they're blasting through that costume dished man and not murdering Tony whatsoever, but breaking some good mirrors in the background. Tony whips out his gun, starts firing at these guys' legs, takes them out, and Tony runs off into his car to drive away here, and I think he ends up getting his arm hurt. His arm ends up in a sling. So Tony ends up calling Manny, and Manny is to, of course, be forced to meet up with Tony, and Manny's telling, or, so Tony is telling Manny, it's like, well, hey, you need to be here like 10 minutes ago. Uh, so like, hey, get dressed, get your stuff together, and Manny isn't seeing this as any real importance because he's in a bed with a big chested woman, and that's all he probably really gives a about. And eventually, it seems that he'll only give a about that later once he disappears. So we turn around and have Tony with, I believe, Chi Chi and Manny, and I believe maybe Nikki. They make their way to Frank's office, and as Frank is going on and talking to Mel here, and they're talking about the baseball game or some goofy thing like that, and Tony ends up barging in. It's like, oh, well, hey, did you fix the umpire of that game? Like, did you have some money on the Cubbies or whatever? So, really making this entrance seem like, oh, like, what's going on here? Why do they have these guns? So, Tony ends up going on and saying what happened to him at the club. They had spoiled his $800 suit, and Frank is like, "Oh wow, like you've got like hitters on you? Like I didn't know." And so Frank is going on and having conspiracies of who it could have been that could have tried to kill Tony here. And maybe it was the Baldaus brothers, whatever that goofy name is. And maybe that has something to go back to the early parts of this movie, the Sunray thing. And so Frank is going on and like, well, you know what? We're gonna find out whoever was to go on and try to kill you tonight, and we're gonna return the favor in spades. And Tony's like, no, 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 no. Like, I'm gonna take care of it myself. And And so Frank turns to Tony. It's like, well, hey, what's the gun for, Tony? So Tony is going on and waiting for a phone call. And he knows about this phone call because he had called Nick and told him to call Frank to talk about the whole hit thing. And excuse me. So Frank ends up asking Tony about the gun, and Tony ends up saying the gun is just pure paranoia. And also, like, he doesn't know who to trust. And so Tony goes on and is to call Frank a cockroach. And that Frank is also a Chazar, just like that other guy was, because he's a pig. Because eventually, when Frank is to go on and answer the phone and then lie about it, like Tony is to go on and turn to Frank. It's like, well, hey, you're lying to me, and like so. Eventually, we get to the point here where Frank is like, well, hey, like I brought you into this business, and like, and this and that, and like, and so eventually we have Frank that is just kind of begging for his life, and so Tony ends up telling Frank that he's not going to be the one that is to kill him this day. And Frank is like, oh, thank God he's not going to kill me. And then Tony turns to Frank. It's like, hey, you kill him. And so Manny does. And then Tony ends up turning to Mel, who's the police officer. And Mel is like, well, clearly I'm not going to get killed here. Like, what are you guys looking at me for? And yeah, Tony ends up going on and shooting Mel in the chest. And then Mel's like, whoa, hold on a minute. Like I can help you. Like I can fix this. And then the further and further that they're talking, like Mel is just like, okay, just shoot me too. Just shoot me dead. Just kill me. Uh, and and so Tony goes on and kills Mel also. The only one left here is a guy named Ernie. And so like, well, what should we do with him? And Tony and Manny turn to Ernie. It's like, well, hey, Ernie, do you need a job? And like, talk to me tomorrow. Then Ernie turns to him. It's like, oh, okay, well, thank you. And it's like, hey, man, all right. So Tony then finds Elvira in bed, wakes her up to tell her it's like, hey, get your stuff. You're going to my place. And Elvira ends up asking Tony, it's like, well, what about Frank? It's like, well, what do you think happened to Frank? He's dead. So, like, let's go. So Tony, coincidentally, now after going on and killing Frank, outside of his window is to see a big, huge blimp that says the world is yours. And Tony feels like he has won here, as we have in the background, just kind of having, it seems, uh, Elvira just kind of fixing her stuff in the place. So Tony is going on and counting all the money in this machine, and both Sosa and Tony are having these conversations, these phone calls back and forth. It's all good times. They're going on and they're just having trucks full of money, or in this case, vans full of money that they're pulling into this bank. And the bank is like, huh? So Tony is going on and figuring out ways to or to launder all of these bits of money by going on and putting together uh, the Montana uh, management company, and then also uh, a a travel company, it seems, and then also he is to be setting up that beauty parlor for Gina to own. So again, there's more money being brought into this bank with huge bagels of money. And so the next thing we end up seeing here is that both Elvira and Tony are tying the knot. And they're in their home where they have these big massive cameras all placed within this home, because Tony had saying that he put these cameras together so that way he could sleep at night. And then also he worries about his security because it seems that a lot of the people who have worked with him have probably gotten lazy and whatever. Eventually, we'll get to that later in the part of the film. This is way too early now. So, as Elvira and Tony get married here, Gina and Manny turn to one another and they're looking at one another like, like, what are we gonna do here? So Tony and Elvira make their way with a number of people to see Tony's tiger, and that seemed like a weird, goofy Tony the tiger, Tony's tiger. Anyways, so Tony and Gina go dress shopping because obviously Gina is going with Manny to get secretly married, and Manny will eventually not tell Tony about this, and Tony will eventually have to be forced to figure it out. There's also be a painting with Tony and Elvira, big fat huge painting. So at this point, Elvira is coking herself up so much so that like this girl is having her hair slicked back and she looks like and uh this is Michelle Pfeiffer here or whatever her name is. Well, it is Michelle Pfeiffer. This is Catwoman here, and like she's looking like, and I'm like, man. Uh, so so now Tony is going on and talking to the banker, and so now the banker wants in on some of this money, and of course the banker is going like, hey man, like I'm your best bet to go on and kind of keep you discreet here, and eventually after this huge slog of dialogue, Manny then turns to Tony and is like, you know what? Like instead of going with that guy, like F that guy, instead, how about we go on and uh, we go with some other people that'll be just as good. And the guy is the Seidelbaum, a Jewish guy. And so Tony's like, okay, I'll go with your recommendation. And so here's where we go on and they talk about the whole camera situation and how Tony can sleep good at night with cameras. And Tony is also talking to Manny about how they're really burning money here, and so on and so forth. So, uh, uh all right. So here is where Tony goes on, and he's in his little bubble bath, and he's watching the news, and he's seeing reporters that are going on and talking about the horrible um, drug raid that is going on and how much these people are making and how like this is a horrible blight on an otherwise uh, good world, and this and that, so on and so forth. I'm hugely paraphrasing here, and Tony the whole time is talking and reacting to these people talking about the drugs that are on their streets and this and that, and so as Tony is going on and just bickering, and eventually this is the lead till to have Elvira chiming in, and also Tony just kind of getting upset with Manny. But so Tony is kind of tired with Elvira just consistently just snorting up her nose, and so like eventually when they're at dinner together that they'll talk about that she has taken so much drugs that there's no way that she's going to be able to even have a child for how drugged up she is, sadly enough. So but Manny's going on and setting up the saddle bomb thing for seven, and so uh let me let me just try to figure out how to figure out my way to kind of maneuver here. So uh let me pause here for just 1 second. All right. So Elvira and Tony are both bickering, and Elvira starts chiming about how like Tony is talking so much here about money, and Frank had never talked so much about money, and Tony ends up asking Elvira, it's like, well, hey, was he a better lover than I was? Was he better this than I was? And that was so. The further and further Elvira wants nothing to do with this conversation, and so as Manny starts to leave, Tony's like, well, hey, where are you going? And Manny's like, well, hey, I'm gonna be a part of uh that whole deal that I talked about you earlier. And Tony's like, you know what? How about I go on and how about I deal with that? And like, and you don't deal with it. And Manny's like, well, I thought I was the one that dealing with. And Manny's like, no, I'll deal with it. So Tony goes on and is to count the money with these guys, and come to find out the money ends up becoming fairly short. So Tony's like, no, 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 we have to go on. We have to recount this whole money. So they turn around and then they recount the whole money. And so come to find out that these guys that Manny had turned Tony on to, it seemed that they were actually cops and they arrested Tony. And now Tony is going on and talking to his lawyer. And it seems that the lawyer is going on and telling Tony that he's going to probably spend 3 to 5 years in prison, and because there's no way that Tony can't like not spend prison time because of logically there being a videotape of them with just a load of money, and there's no way that Tony can just say that this money just appeared at the bottom of a taxi cab. It doesn't work that way. So Tony then goes on and is to meet up with Sosa. And come to find out, it seems that Sosa is going on and having a baby soon. And it's like, oh, hey, yeah, congratulations. Because he's like 3 months away from having a child. So, like, he has a child on the way. And then also, I think Sosa ends up asking Tony, it's like, well, hey, like, do you have any kind of news coming your way? And Tony's like, So Sosa turns around and has all these business guys around him. And Sosa ends up bringing Tony in to show him this journalist that Sosa wants Tony to kill. And if they go on and if Tony does this, then Tony will not go on and spend any prison time. That all this will just kind of be wiped slate clean because we have this journalist who's named Matos, and he's going on and to have figured out about or Sosa and like his crimes and empire and everything like that. So Sosa is going on and telling uh, Tony here that this guy needs to be dead, and he's going to turn him on to uh, a guy named Alberto, which in IMDb his name is called Shadow. So I don't know what to freaking call this guy. I think I'll call him Shadow, just for the sake of just getting this out quicker. So Alberto will be doing all the heavy lifting of disposing and getting rid of this guy. All Tony has to do is be the one there to make sure that it all goes off without a hitch, which it will not go out without a hitch. There's going to be problems with that. So here's where we go on and we get the dinner scene where Tony is with Elvira, and as they're going on and as they're talking here, Elvira loses her appetite, and here's where Elvira goes on and starts to just talk about every bit of Tony's business and that he kills people and sells coke, and that eventually she goes on and she says that she's leaving him, she wants nothing to do with him. And so eventually she goes on and she leaves here, and Tony is going on and looking at everybody. It's like, oh, like you want to go on and be the people that are good people, but you're just hiding. You're just lying. You uh, just like to point at somebody and call them the bad guy. It's like, well, the bad guy is leaving now. So on and so forth. And so he leaves. So this is a very long-winded film. Holy crap. Uh, if only I could have gone on and seen how long this whole entire video was going to be for talking about this whole entire movie, because I knew it was going to be a long one. I think it was an hour and 40 some odd minutes for the other clip. Now I'm going to have to go into 6 minutes. So I'll have to see altogether how long this is all going to be to talk about all this, because it's a very long winded movie. And I apologize for people going on and having to hear that, because they're like, yeah, dude, you're talking for way too long. So, New York City! New York City! So, we have Alberto, or Shadow, that ends up planting the bomb underneath Matsuo's car. And so, Shadow ends up telling Tony that they need to be X number of feet between this guy to set this bomb off. So, and they just need to follow him around. So, what ends up happening is, as they make their way to follow this guy around, this journalist around, they come to find out that he is not alone, that he is going to also have his entire family in the car. And so they start driving around, and the guy's shadow is going to go on and start detonating the bomb. And Tony is like, there's no way you're going to do this. There's no way you're going to kill these kids and this wife. Like, I specifically said no wife, no kids. And so as the closer and closer it gets, and the more that Tony is looking at this guy and he's willing so easily to just pull the trigger, Tony then turns around and is deciding to pull the trigger on Shadow and kill him here, and then lets the car go. So Tony ends making a phone call uh, to Nick and is asking if Elvira has called or anything like that, which she hasn't. And Tony is telling this guy, it's like, well, hey, like, if you haven't heard from, if you hear from Elvira, tell her that I love her. And also, Tony ends up asking for Manny, and Manny is seemingly nowhere to be seen. So Tony is livid right now. So, uh, as Tony makes his way back home, uh, we of course have Nick that goes on and tells Tony that his mother is called, and also they still can't figure out where the heck Manny is. So Tony then goes on to answer his phone and ends up being his mother, and so Tony is to have to go on and meet uh, with his mother. So, but then also Tony ends up getting a phone call from Sosa. So Sosa ends up telling Tony, because he did not pull the trigger on this journalist, that this guy had gone on and done a speech at the UN, which is to be big trouble for Sosa. And so eventually this is to all lead to Sosa being upset about this speech because he was never supposed to get there to do this speech. So here is where Sosa goes on and tells Tony, it's like, well, hey, like, I told you, like, if you F with me, like, like, uh, that you were gonna pay for this. So Tony goes on and he's grabbing the phone and he's trying to go on and he's trying to be very intimidating against the phone, and he tries to pick it up and realizes that Sosa had already hung up. So Tony decides that he has a billion other things going on right now, so he wants to go to his mother instead of going anywhere else. So the mother and Tony end up talking, and come to find out Gina is missing. And it seems that at one point, Tony's mother has realized that Gina has consistently been hiding away someplace, and uh, Tony's mother had followed Gina to where she was going and found out some address. So Tony's going to go on and follow said address to then find that at the doorway there's going to be Manny there, and Gina is going to be in the background, both of them both in robes. So having then Tony put the pieces together where Manny like was never supposed to end up with Gina, and he told him that leads to then Tony shooting Manny and Gina rushing to Manny's dead body. And a lot of the guys that are working with Tony are going on and telling him, like, hey, we need to get out of here. Like, you just killed this guy. Like, we definitely need to just kind of scramble out of here. So they grab Gina and they get the heck out of there. They make their way they make their way back to Tony's place, and really at this point in time, Ernie and Chi-Chi are turning to Tony. It's like, well, hey, what are we gonna do next? And Tony turns to both of the men. It's like, well, hey, let's plan for war because Sosa is coming for us, and also probably the cops are probably gonna come for us eventually. So Tony ends up telling the guys that he's gonna eat Sosa for breakfast, and and uh, and shut that effer down. And so eventually, Tony used to go on and snort so much cocaine that like his nose turns white. It's ridiculous. Like his nose is just like just a lot of just cocaine just all over that nose of his. So we start to see Sosa's men start to scramble through here and start to choke some of the guards out, and one ends up getting a person killed in the pool. So there ends up being this guy with this hook. Then it's making his way uh, into this home. So while Tony is just snorting away, we have Gina that comes in and is to say, it's like, is this what you want, Tony? You can't stand any other man to be with me. That like you, uh, that you have to say that I'm yours. And so Gina has lost it at this point, and she is going on and having a gun and shooting Tony at the worst possible time. And I'm like, oh my god, Gina! Like, not only am I like, god dang, Gina, you look smoking hot, but then also like, Gina is going on and trying to just murder Tony here, and it's very weird and creepy how she's going about this. Now she's yeah, like you better come and get me now, Tony. Like I'm yours. Like you do it now before it's too late, and so on and so forth. Um, F me, come on and just F me. So Gina's cranking out this gun. She is trying to just shoot Tony, and this guy just comes out of the shadows and and guns down Gina, and then Tony goes on and is to toss this guy out of the balcony uh, into this pool and murders him. So and shoots tries to like tries to shoot down some people as one of Tony's men is to tell him like, hey man, like there's people all over the place, get the heck out of here. So Tony is scrambling for his guns as there's a guy that's an assassin who's named Skull that comes in here, and it's like, all right, like let's go on and let's murder some folks. So Tony is now with Gina, and she's obviously dead. She's been riddled with bullets. She's freaking dead. And Tony's going on and like saying like, hey Gina, like look at your face. It's all dirty. It's like, yeah, because she's dead. It's all covered in blood, I'm sure. So Tony has lost, I guess, his mind and telling Gina, it's like, well, hey, don't be mad at me. Like, I love Manny, you know, and I love you. And so there are people trying to get into Tony's room, and he has his security guard, or he has his security footage, and he's looking at it. So Tony's having to go on and scramble and get his like big massive gun. And so as all these guys just start to line in on Tony's door, here's where we go on and we be like, hey guys, you like to play rough? Say hello to my little friend. Pa! He blasts the door and murders a bunch of guys right at this doorway. And as the guys start ringing in, Tony goes on and starts blasting into them, trying his best as he starts to at some point get riddled in the shoulder, or in certain points starts to get hit with bullets one by one. So Tony is spraying all over the goddamn place, trying to get these guys, trying to kill them, and eventually he's starting to run out of ammo, and the skull guy ends up becoming right behind him without him realizing it. And so as these guys start blasting into Tony, and at this point he has no gun in hand, he is just still trying to be like this macho guy where it's like, yeah, I'm taking your bullets, like I'm taking your effing bullets, like come on, like shoot me. And so we have the skull from behind shooting Tony. Tony falls into the pool, and uh, as the skull and as the assassins are to go on and realize, like, okay, like this is the last guy they had to kill, and like, and here's where the movie just wraps up. So I think I'm gonna try and wrap up here so I can get out of here, so I can put this video out for you today. I'm sure this probably will not do any good for views, because recently I've just selfishly chose to do certain reviews that probably won't go anywhere. Um, to be brutally honest, but like I'm sometimes happy if uh like I get what I wanted to get out for that day, regardless of the ultimate success that something does not go into what I would have hoped would have gone to. And surprisingly, there has been a lot of these where oddly they just do miraculously better than I thought that they were going to do. And I was like, thank God, because like I was really happy that so many had saw those videos, because I was like, God dang, like just when I was thinking that like there's gonna be just a good uh branch of just like zero viewed things and nobody cared and whatever, like it was kind of nice to kind of see like a change of whatever. But then again, there have also still been some like one viewed things or two viewed things, and like I can just be like, well, you got to just take the good and take the bad, and also just realize that I'm just going to keep doing this every single freaking day anyways. So I hope to turn this channel around or can keep it consistent, but logically, uh, I am such a variety person that at some points, a lot of times it'll just be whatever I selfishly want for that day is going to be whatever the video ends up being, instead of what's probably going to be good for the channel. I'm going to sabotage myself, I'm sure, but I'm sure also whatever I have picked that is going down the pipeline, anyways, is probably not going to do well. Because immediately I'm just thinking of like, well, I have this movie and I have that movie, and like I don't think that's in my mind things that eventually are going to go well on the channel. But I probably could go back to some obvious stuff that seems to be uh, trending on the channel that I probably could do sequels of, but like also, I could go back into doing Power Rangers, because it's been a while since I've done that. I probably should have gone back into that way earlier, but I just kept procrastinating and finding other projects, just because like I was hoping um, that there would be projects that would do better to like just kind of hold off from me going back to doing Power Rangers reviews. Um, but it seems that that's not happening. So maybe I should justify going back to doing Power Rangers reviews to actually get better views on videos. Who knows? Uh, but anyways, I'm gonna get the heck out of here because I'm sure you guys don't want to hear any of this stuff. And also, you guys are gonna just be like, "Man, what a douche! What an a-hole this guy is." Um, and maybe you may have not have gone on and heard any of this stuff because you just clicked into the first 20 seconds of this video and like, oh, this. He clickbaited me. Whatever. Um, I'm just being honest. I'm just being truthful here. Being an a-hole. And then also I'm freaking tired, so I should probably get out of here. Goodbye, everybody. Bye, everybody.